Hello and welcome. Sorry, I wasn't ready then. Oh, it went too quick. Thank you for joining us. This one is going out. So hello to everyone on Saturday evening at 10 p.m. EST. And welcome to Alienate UK. We're part of the UNX network of Paranormal Radio. So thank you everyone who's listening on there. So we go out at 10 p.m. every Saturday night EST. So thank you to Race for helping us be part of that. So that's that one. Thank you to everyone who's joining the Patreon. That really is helping keeping the channel going. And everything just seems to be working now. So massive thank you. Thank you and hello to everyone in the chat. And thank you and hello to everyone who's listening on podcast. Too many platforms, and should have just stuck to one, shouldn't I? Our podcast platform is picking up, getting more and more downloads. More people are listening around the world. So thank you to everyone that's liking and subscribing and following on there. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. They're the only two I know because I don't listen to it on anything else. So whatever you've got, you can find us on there, just Alienate UK. So, hello and thank you, and hello and thank you. So, enough of that. Getting more and more download. I don't know what's going on. Nicole's just messing about now. Yeah. Oh no, she's back. Right, there we go. Side?
Yeah, I switched to my phone because it was lagging already.
No, that's fine. So, welcome, Paul. Finally, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to Nickname for arranging this when she met up with you in Weston-super-Mare thereabouts a couple of months back. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Nice to be on here.
Yeah, it just feels like that I've known you for a long time, even though I don't think we've ever spoke really before.
No, it's the first time, isn't it?
Good, but strange vibe. But I was just speaking to Paul just before we went live, and I think we're going to change the way that we do the show. Is when the guest comes on, I don't want to know anything about the guest. I just want to know their name. That way, we get a lot more questions, a lot more insight, and its initial reaction to everything that's going to be said and talked about. So I think that's going to be more entertaining than, like I said to you, if you send me your bio, I know the last 25 years of your life. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of like, I just think it'll mix it up a little bit and go from there. So.
No, I think it'll be good.
Excellent.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hey.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Technical difficulties, but
we're
making it work.
That's fine.
Right. So, Paul, you are, or you run Host for Ghosts Paranormal.
Correct. Yes, I'm the founder of Host for Ghosts Paranormal Researchers.
Right. So, is that a investigation team, or do you have a YouTube channel or TikTok or any platforms that you run on?
We tend to. We are a team. I have a team, a historian. I have my partner Jenny, who's a psychic medium, and also does the spirit art. We run on Facebook. I do a Monday night paranormal live with another team I'm associated with for a very long time, South Coast Ghosts. I do a lot with them. I also host with another team, help host events for Paranation UK. They do the events. I do TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I don't put so much on YouTube because I'm still practicing putting videos together.
All right. Yeah. It takes a while. There you go.
And we're part of the Great British Ghost Hunters and another group called Poopy, Unified Paranormal Investigators. So we're part of we're a small investigation team, but part of a big team.
Yeah, part of a big network.
Yeah, where we have all the small teams that can't afford these thousands and thousands of pounds worth of venues. We sort of get together as small teams and do investigations together ourselves that way, because it makes it more affordable for ourselves, but also affordable for the guests.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what we aim to do, to give them a good time, but obviously, keep it as cheap as possible. We go to good venues, but I have my own team. I have about 4 or 5 investigators.
Yeah. How do you find having a team compared to going out on your own?
I prefer a team because a lot of the time you can bounce things off of each other. Sometimes a single person doesn't always get that massive amount of energy that you need for spirit to contact. Also, I find myself going out alone is quite dangerous, because if something was to happen to you, and we know, you could be in situations where things do happen and you're not sure which way to run, or you're totally lost in your surroundings, which can be quite dangerous, because you can run deeper into the woods or whatever. My philosophy is, if we go into abandoned buildings, which we do, what you've got to remember, these buildings are 3 or 4 or 5 stories. It'd be like they are in America. They take the lift shafts out when they decommission the units. So all the time that you're wandering around in the dark and you see something very much down in the distance, you're always looking at the end of your torch, but you're never actually looking at the floor. So there's a good chance that you trip over something, or you go straight down a lift shaft, and then you join the other side when you're at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. And then you quickly trying to contact yourself, won't you?
Yeah, you're talking to yourself from the other side. But I have been on my own. But I prefer to go as a team, because safety side of it as well. You're safe with all of you there.
Yeah.
And if something happens, you've always got some means of communication, with each other. Somebody gets injured, you can get someone out of the building as quick as possible. Even if you're with guests, if we do an event, we have 4 or 5, maybe 6 of us. So we know that we move between the guests to make sure everybody's okay. We've had people that have had diabetic attack in the middle of an investigation, completely sweating, virtually on the point of collapse. And so if you're on your own and you're trying to deal with that amount of that sort of stuff, you need someone to take them. Obviously, we're medically trained as well. And we take them out. We called the ambulance. Everybody else was carrying on with the investigation, not realising that we had an issue. So being as part of a team is a good thing.
Yeah. See, I go out investigating during the day. A lot of the time on my own, obviously, because it's safer. You can see what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah.
But then at night, I have done a couple on my own, but same safety reasons, I'd rather be with at least one other person.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. You've always got in the back of your mind, you're going into an investigation, you're going into woods, you're going into buildings. You don't actually know what you're going in to find, do you?
No.
And once you're in that situation, the door shuts behind you. You can't get out. You got 9 times out of 10, you get no phone signal when you're in the buildings, or you're deep in the woods or deep in the forest, whatever. you always look at your phone, you think, well, I've got no signal here, or you're in a building, you know, you could be in serious trouble on your own, couldn't you?
Yeah. Because Nicole goes out investigating. She's part of Full Moon Paranormal.
Oh yeah.
But they always bait Nicole and send her in the dodgy rooms on her own. But
yeah.
but
I'm the only one who's not a medium. I'm the only one who's not like sensitive or a medium, so it doesn't bother me to be in those kind of situations.
Right.
But do you find with your team that some people have different experiences than others? Like some spirits are drawn more to certain individuals?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it depends on the energy that you're taking into the building. You know, we keep it happy, smiling, laughing, you know, crack jokes, keep the energy as high as possible. You're always going to end up with someone that's slightly a skeptic, which is fine. You know, we're all skeptics in the beginning, aren't we? You know, we're out there looking, and I sort of treat each investigation as like a school day. Every day I learn something new on every investigation. I can't say that I've had 2, 3, 4, 5 investigations that have ever been the same. There's always something different. So you're always learning. And with that skeptic, that's fine. You know, everybody's entitled to that. But my aim is to show that skeptic, do you think there could be something on the other side? You know, give them the evidence. If they go away and say, no, I don't believe that at all, then what else can you do? But go, you know, you have to honor what they say. You know, you have to. But if you can give them the evidence, you know, we try and go in happy, laughing, you know, crack a few jokes and just that sort of thing to keep, because, you know, all the time you're happy and the energy's good, you're always going to get a good connection. But you'll always get the one person, and you know you can feel that person that's very skeptical or very negative. You know, I've only come because the girlfriend's bought me. I don't really want to be here because football's on or something's going on that, you know, they really wanted to be watching the football and not walking around a haunted house. You know, and I've had probably 2 or 3 incidences of that. And I've actually took one guy down into a basement with me. He was so skeptical. He went, no, don't believe any of it. Like, you know, the whole story. I said, why don't you come to the basement with me? And his girlfriend was off doing an investigation with my other team members.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, I'll go down the basement. That's all right. There's nothing down there. I said, that's fine. So obviously we went down the basement, and typical basement, isn't it? You know, where you can't see the hand in front of your face. It's dark as dark. And as being lucky as I am, I have a gift. I could sense there was something in the basement with us. I knew it was there. So he's saying, well, what's going on? We can't really see anything. And I said to him, to our right-hand side is a door. You know, would you want to ask that? No, I'm not asking any questions, was his answer. So I asked that, if any spirits here wish to communicate, can you open the door, rattle the door handle, you know, knock on the door, give us an indication that you're here. We only want to communicate. And then we could hear the door handle rattling, like someone was trying to get in. But I knew the room, because it was a basement, there was no other exit or entrance into the basement other than where we were standing by the door. So the door burst open and I knew something had come into the basement with us. Yeah. And he sensed it. He went, oh, what was that? He said, someone's just walked past me. He said, yeah, don't panic. It's fine. And I said, Spirit, you know, we're not here to cause you any problems. We just want to communicate, you know, you go through the whole respectful part with the spirit. And then gradually, he's the sort of chap, he's quite a big chap, that suddenly you feel him leaning on your shoulder because he's getting a bit closer now because the atmosphere is changing. So you get that leaning type, you know, he's right. I said, you're all right. He said, oh, there's something moving in there. I said, yeah, and I'm shining the torch. He said, here's the torch. You look around. He said, there's nothing there, but I know there's someone pushing against me. I said, well, where? And, you know, what's your shoulder like? He said, my shoulder's freezing. But I'm telling you, mate, he's saying there's someone leaning against me. I said, well, that's all right. They're not going to harm you. Just letting you know that they're there and they're communicating. They don't always communicate with voice. They can touch and, you know, do all that type of audio, clairaudience type stuff. All of a sudden, something stood in front of us and went, oh. And I've never seen a grown man run so quick and leave me standing there on my own. He's gone out the fire exit and disappeared. So I stood there, said, thank you for that, Spirit. You know, you have to be respectful. You've asked them to do it. Why run?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can understand why he ran. You know, he'd gone, the door bang, and I could hear him tearing up the stairs and gone. I said, thank you for that, but you came a little bit too close that time. You know, thanks for your interaction. You know, I'll come back later and we'll chat with the voice recorder, blah, blah, blah. And then in my head, I heard, thank you. And then it gone quiet. So I thought I better go and check on him. So I sort of went up the stairs. He's in the car park trying to light a cigarette like that. And I said, "Are you all right?" He said, "Mate, what was that?" He said, "There was a man standing in front of us." I said, "But you don't believe in that." He said, "I'm telling you, there was someone in front of us." And his girlfriend come out. She said, "Are you all right? You've gone really white." And he said, "You ain't gonna." He was stuttering. He said, "You're not going to believe where." I don't know what to say. He said, "I need to have a smoke and calm down." And eventually he calmed down and told her. She said, "But you thought this was rubbish." He said, "But I know there was someone there, but there was no one there." You know, and I said to him, you know, you could be as skeptical as you like, but you ask spirit to interact, and 9 times out of 10 they will. You know, but be respectful. You have to be respectful.
Yeah. I went out the other day just quickly because just want to get your take on it. So it was me and a guy called Tim Smith. He lives locally to me in Northampton. So we went to the church ruins and we're doing an EVP, a mother and daughter headstones. The mother, she was alive 106, and the daughter was about 29, 30. She died during the war. Don't know which one. I can't remember. And so we're doing like an EVP, and he's using Dolby On to record it. And we're listening to it back. So you can hear me and Tim talking, like we're both asking questions and we're having a conversation between each other. And you can hear this over going.
Nice.
So there's no words. It's just really heavy breathing.
Yeah.
But when we stood there doing it, we both went cold. It's like the atmosphere changed. The sun was on us. And then we moved about 10 foot away and it was breezy. And even the breeze was warm, completely different energy and atmosphere.
See what would come to me was that the mother would be the protector of the child. So she would be the one that would come forward first rather than the child. Because obviously mother is always the protector, isn't she, for the child? Yeah. So if the mother had died at 100 years old and the child had died, I don't know, whatever age, 30 or whatever.
29, 30, around about that.
So generally you find it's normally an older person that will come through first rather than a child. Sometimes you go to a school or somewhere like a haunted school. So you're expecting children to come through. But sometimes you get what would be teachers or past teachers or head teacher. You know, suddenly you think, well, that's a man's voice or a lady's voice. Where are the children? But you'll always get that protector that will be the first that makes that contact with you.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I've done.
Yeah. Well, you had the K2 meter in front of the daughter's headstone, and we stood about 7.5, 8 foot away, and that was like Blackpool, just like Vegas. The lights just kept going and going.
Yeah.
And then we heard a noise, and it was weird because I was listening to Paul Sinclair last night, Truth Proof, and they were saying that it's like sounded like a frog. There was definitely no frogs there. They cut the grass right, but it made that croaking noise, and we're like,
right,
what the was that? And that was in the middle of all this other noise. But this is the weird. I don't know if it's synchronicity or just coincidence. The mother, can't remember her name. Her birthday is the same day everything is mine, obviously.
Oh,
but wow. Exactly 100 years. So she was born in 1873 and I was born in 1973. That's weird. I've been to this place 10, 12, 15 times. Never noticed it.
There's no coincidences.
But correct.
No. I know.
Correct.
And then we got all this stuff going on here. It's like, wow.
Do you think you were drawn to that headstone?
No.
Out of all the headstones in the graveyard, why was you at that one?
Well, because Tim said you get a lot of activity. He'd already spoke about these two headstones, like the mother and daughter. So but I'd only spoke to Tim. Was it the week before? He was only on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was
Right.
pretty
And then we
recent.
said, oh, we'll meet up and we'll go because everywhere's local to where we are. We're both roughly
Sure.
about the same distance. He's one side of the town, I'm the other. So we met up there and he goes, oh, these are the two I was telling you about. And we stood there and we're doing the investigation, the EVP, not even looking at, I just looked at the names and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the date because he said, oh, she was 106 when she died. So I'm looking like, and we did a live stream. It's got my reaction that she was exactly 100 years, like born 100 years before me.
I think you were drawn to it.
That
I think,
messed me head. And I'd never noticed these headstones
no.
before. Not physically acknowledged them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'll have walked past and seen them, but just
Sure.
not took any notice of them.
Yeah. But sometimes you're drawn to certain places and certain buildings. You know, even if we do, like when we do private investigations at houses, you know, all the paranormal groups that are out there that do houses and private locations and things like that, why are we the people drawn to us to go to that house, you know, out of all the groups? And it's the same as you go into that graveyard. You know, you're wandering around, there may be 100 souls, bless them, in the ground there, but you happen to be right at that one at that time. And the first time you've noticed it was 100 years old, you know, the date you were born.
Yeah.
You know, it's no, like Nicole said, it's no coincidence. I think you were drawn there to that part at that to notice that.
Well, this is the thing. So it's like so Tim said he's been watching the YouTube channel for about just over the last 12 months. And then I was looking for guests coming on, and Tim said about coming on. I think I was doing one on a Monday. So he came on, and then we connected because of how close we live from each other. So there's the second connection. The third connection, we arranged to go out and investigate. The first time, for some reason, I was messaging him, but nothing. It wasn't going through. He wasn't receiving them. So that got delayed, and we ended up going on Wednesday, just gone. So it's like he said, there's a reason behind each time we didn't go. Or there's a connection to everything, whether it was us meeting, us not meeting, not going, and then going. So it's sort of knock-on effect.
It's a bit like, you know, when you meet someone, like you were saying, you know, it's like you've known me for years.
Yeah,
there's just that connection there that spirit put there, that energy, that connection that they need you to meet. You need, and sometimes you meet people, you think, well, I would never have thought of looking for you, but you make that instant connection with someone, you know, like you've known them for many, many years, and you've only just met. And I think spirit do that because I think we're there to learn. Spirit put us with other people to learn. So, like I was saying, every day we go out on an investigation. You know, I work full time, but we're out weekends and evenings and that. You know, to me, every day's a school day. I learn something different every day, and I learn something different from someone every day that I go with or I meet along the way. You know, you could be in a graveyard and meet someone walking around, and they say, "Oh, what you doing here?" You obviously don't tell them what you're doing there.
No, it's like,
and then suddenly, you know, it's like the graveyard down from here. It's a Commonwealth graveyard, so it has soldiers in it as well. And me and my partner Jenny, we often walk round there with the dog. And one day we were walking around there, and we hadn't noticed it, but we were drawn to this gravestone. So we wandered over and had a read of it, and then we realised we've sort of read it. It was a guy called Professor Swan. So we're thinking, oh, so who's Professor Swan then? Never heard of him. Sort of read the bit of a description on his headstone. You know, he was an inventor, a philosopher, blah, blah, blah. So we came back and we Googled it, thought, well, who's this Professor Swan? And he was the first man to make the incandescent light bulb, not what. He actually made the first light bulb ever made, an incandescent light bulb, but he never had the money to patent the light bulb. But what did? So what took it over from him and then patent what we see now as the light bulb. But Professor Swan was the first guy that designed it, built it, made it work.
Wow.
Now, why were we drawn to there?
That's it, isn't it?
It's sort of quite mind-blowing, really, sometimes when you're drawn to a place, a building, a location, woods. You know, you could go in the woods and you can wander for days, But why is it you suddenly end up somewhere that there's a building or there's a ruin? How could you be there? You know, and I think spirit guide us because they're teaching us a lesson, or making us learn a bit more about our surroundings. Because a lot of times we go on investigation, we don't look at our surroundings, do we? We're so fixated on what we're looking for, we don't actually realise what's going on around us. You know, we're in the building, oh, is anybody here? But when you actually stand back and look at the fabric of the building, you think, wow, what a building.
Yeah.
You know, and the energy's in the building, not always in spirit.
Yeah.
The energy's in the building. And we seem sometimes overlook that.
Yeah, because I believe now that if there was no energy, whether it's the grounds, the building, the woods, the trees, whatever there is, if there's no energy there, then I don't think the spirits will be drawn to it.
No.
Why would you go somewhere that's just, it'd be boring. Like when we go somewhere and we think it's boring, it's like, I ain't going there again.
Yeah.
It must be the same for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Have that mental selection.
Then it is, yeah. You know, you go in there, you think, oh, that looks spooky. And you go in there, you think, oh, well, it's just a normal derelict house. But it looks it. You know, it's like, you know, it'd be like yourself. You could go anywhere and say, oh, that building's haunted, that's haunted. But when we do an investigation or we do, you know, like a private house, I always go in there and obviously having a gift, being very lucky to have a gift. I always say, I don't have to prove the house is haunted. I need the house to prove to me it's haunted.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Because you could say that about any building that looks creepy. You say, oh, that's very haunted. And people would believe you because that's the power of suggestion, isn't it? But in my mind, I say to the building, you've called me here. You want me here. Now tell me how you're haunting. And I'll make that spirit or the energy within that building say to me, and I could come out at the end of 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours and say, wow, you know, the evidence I've got, that building is haunted.
We go into a lot of places, and I think that anywhere can be haunted. Like if you try hard enough, you sit there long enough with your equipment, something's going to happen because there's energy, there's spirits everywhere.
Yeah.
But to have a really active location, like you said, it has to show you instead of you trying to find it.
Yeah, and I think you're drawn to that location because it wants to show you. It might want to show you the history, or someone's desperate to make contact with someone, because we don't just stumble on these places, we're actually drawn to them. I feel that's how I personally feel, that if we do a location, we're drawn to it. It's not that we drive along, see something, get out and run over to it. We're actually suddenly pull up and you think, oh, wow. Oh, I've been tempted a few times. I've got chased off a few times, but that's another story. You know, and I feel that spirit draw us to them locations because they want us to know, yes, it is haunted. It is me that's here, you know, and we're actively on an investigation in Colchester where the spirit ties knots in the curtains.
Oh, I was in Colchester today.
Was you? It ties knots in curtains overnight.
Oh.
See, that's weird. Like, because as a living human, you wouldn't think like, hey, I want to get this person's attention. Let me tie a knot in this curtain.
Yeah.
I hope they'll notice.
But it's various things that are happening, like the knots, the doors being unlocked in the middle of the night. And the other thing that's just recently started is the shoes are put outside with the shoelaces tied together.
They really like tying things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, untying things.
Do you think that that might be something other than like a human spirit? Like it seems like kind of a weird thing.
This is what we're trying to investigate. We're going back there on the 15th of this month with some more equipment and see whether we can actually connect with this person or this being or whatever's there. Obviously wants attention or wants someone to talk to it, because it's doing various things to, you know, doesn't scare the occupants, but it's making various things noticeable. You know, I find that some locations people say to me, oh, you know, I get knocking and I get tapping and I get this through the night. And I say to them, do you acknowledge that? Do you say, hello, you know, who are you? They say, no, I ain't bothered by it. The next phone call a few months later saying, well, I've got lights going on and off and torches going on in my bag and my handbag's tipped over. in the middle of the night. And I say to them, it's because the spirit wants you to acknowledge it, wants you to say, because it's probably a loved one that's coming in near an anniversary,
Yeah.
a passing, whatever. And if they can't audibly get your attention, then they're going to start to up it by turning lights on and off, turning the TV on. And she said the torch was on in her handbag, laid on the side, and the torch rolled out in the middle of the night. And I said, but you need to acknowledge that. And she has, and it stopped. It's just about acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, do you prefer then going out when you're going out investigating, doing it indoors or out and about? Whether it's a derelict building that's open, or woods, or a cemetery, or whatever the open land is, or do you prefer to be closed inside on a location?
I prefer it. I don't mind either. When you're outside, it's more of a challenge because you've got the outer elements that you're with. So if you're voice recording, you're picking up, is that wind noise? Is that an aeroplane in the distance? Because the voice recorders nowadays are so powerful, they pick up anything. Is that rustling from someone walking past or someone? And when you're in an enclosed building, you've got none of that challenge of the wind, the noise. Everybody's sort of tiptoeing around, aren't they? Because you're all trying to be as quiet, whether you're allowed there or you're not allowed there. You're trying to be as quiet as possible when you tiptoe. But outside, to me, it becomes a different investigation because you're having to take into account the elements.
Yeah.
You could have voice recording and somebody say hello, but was that someone half a mile away on a footpath, walking down the footpath for public? And it may I quite like that. I quite like the challenge of trying to debunk various voices. When you get a voice and you say, but there was nobody there, then it becomes a different investigation. But when you're outside, you've got all the elements to be dealing with.
Yeah.
So I don't mind either.
Yeah. See, I prefer outside. I think I'm just more of an outside person. I think that's what it is. Even my job, I'm outside. I drive for a living. I'm inside, but I'm outside. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit in an office all day. I'd last.
No, I'm the same. I'm afraid.
I've tried it once. Did it for about 2 weeks. I was like, no, never again. But when we was at an investigation on Wednesday, I forgot about this. We actually had like someone walking on gravel or gravel being moved. There's no gravel around there. It's like a dirt path where they've just dug the grass over, or it's grass. There is no gravel in this. It's a consecrated churchyard. So it's just ruins, but obviously they still use it for burials. And there is no gravel anywhere. And where we were stood, it was all soft grass anyway.
But if you look back at the history, because if that would have been a church in the 4th, 15th, 16th century, you'd have had gravel drives for the coaches to pull up to, where people would go to church.
Well, this is the thing. So where you go into it, so you've got the road that runs alongside, then you've got like a gravelly track that stops probably about 30 foot away from the gate. And you've got a double gate that opens, then a single kissing gate, that swings out so you can just get one person through.
Yeah.
But the double gates are open. We just, out of respect, we close them when we go in or out. Yeah. So that's the only way in, because the church is down a dip, and then it's built on like a little mound, but then it dips down again at the side, and there's fields to the left, and then there's like a little brook stream on the side of a dry stone wall behind it. So from what I can see, that's the original layout. That's the only way is up to the metal gates.
Yeah.
And then from there, you've got to walk down into the church.
Yeah. Maybe you're hearing residual energy of someone walking along the gravel that would have been heading into the church.
But the thing is, I hear that quite a lot. So when I'm out, there's another cemetery not too far away from there, probably about half a mile. And when I've been there, and that's another one that's got war graves.
Oh yeah, Commonwealth.
Yeah, Commonwealth war graves. So when the top bit, that's grass. It's like bowling green grass. It's like that well looked after. So even when I'm walking along there, I'll hear noise outside of me. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? We were doing a Monday night.
That's what it sounds like.
Does it?
So it sounds like someone's walking on gravel at the side of me. I'm just going to mute the mic to see who it is. Right, it's not Nicole. Not you. It's not me.
How weird is that?
That's so
But
weird.
we've done a Monday Night Live before where we're talking about an investigation, and we actually had a woman's voice come through saying, "Hello, I'm here." Literally,
Wow.
and we're all looking at each other going, "Who's that?" And it literally was, "Hello, I'm here."
Right.
And we're
I've
thinking,
had
well,
EVPs come through on
Oh.
shows, on recordings before. I know you have,
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah. I'll play one in a minute for you if you want and see what you think. But
it's incredible, isn't it?
people have just heard that in the chat. I've muted each mic individually, and it was still coming through.
That's
So
weird.
it isn't from either microphone, and they're the only 3 channels that are going through onto here. Because like 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
that's it. That's all you've got, unless there
I
was
wonder-
somebody else here. But as you know, there's not.
But- Yeah, I wonder whether that was spirit trying to connect.
There might be somebody else here.
Yeah,
What we need to watch it back. There might be
Yeah.
a message in
because
there.
I think because you might slow that down
Yes.
and you'll pick up a message within that.
Because what I
Within
do,
that.
I download it onto my iPad and I'll do it frame by frame.
Yeah,
So
and
I'll
I
just
think
cut
you'll pick
that
it up.
clip and do it that way. But this was, so Nathaniel Gillis, he was on 2 nights ago. I think
Right.
this was the very first interview that I did with him. Ignore everything about it. It's awful. It is like when I first started doing it. It's 40 seconds long. So I'm asking him questions, obviously. And then guy called Rick Allen, he asked a question. So I'll put it up, and then I do the question. But I want to see if you can hear what we heard. So I'm going to play it now, just see what your thoughts are on it.
Of deception here. And so I wouldn't trust myself around them. You know, if they wanted to manipulate me and my perceptions, it'd be difficult for me not to just go with it.
No. Great answer. Thank you.
Yep.
Right, do one more question before the break.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
I'll do this one. This is from Rick Allen again. Does Nathaniel believe that there is no life elsewhere in the universe?
Well, in that aspect of it, I don't know that there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could say I believe or I don't believe. I don't know.
Wow.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
So
But did you hear earlier on in there? Very early on in there, if you listen, there's a high.
Is there?
Yeah. I could hear something. I could hear something earlier on in it.
Oh,
If
I'll
you
just play that first bit quick then.
You listen, it's very, very quiet. It's like, it's like a very high.
Yeah.
Listen.
Of deception here. And so I wouldn't trust myself around them.
Then? Was it then?
I think so. Just do that again. Yes.
Of deception here. And so I wouldn't trust myself around them. You know, if they wanted to manipulate me and my perceptions, it'd be difficult for me not to just go with it.
No. Great answer. Thank you.
Yep.
Right, do one more question before the break.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
I'll do this one. This is from Rick Allen again. Does Nathaniel believe that there is no life elsewhere in the universe?
Well, in that aspect of it, I don't know that there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could say I believe or I don't believe. I don't know.
That sounds like he knows, doesn't it?
Yeah, or you know.
Yeah.
Or you know.
I think it says you know.
Yeah.
This was the creepy part for me was after we'd watched it back and I was speaking to Nathaniel later on, we worked out that came out of my microphone.
Oh, did it? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I was literally sat here but facing that way.
Yeah.
So exact same spot.
But
And
very, very early on in that, there's a very quiet in there.
Yeah.
Because you hear you talk and he goes, and then the other guy comes in.
Yeah.
So it's very, very short and quick, but then you get that, he knows or whatever. Yeah, interesting that one. Yeah. But one we had.
There's a guy, I think it's Jason Pritchard, who's usually in the chat. It was him that pointed out and he time stamped it for me. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
got on it straight away. I'm like, oh my God.
They're so clever, aren't they, Spirit?
Yeah, you don't get them that often. And the other ones that I've got, it's when we've been waiting before we've gone live.
Oh, okay.
I was speaking, I don't know if you know Chris Reinhardt, he does Sasquatch Discovery.
Yeah.
Over on the East Coast in America. And he's got a sound gate and that on his PC, and he's in the basement. So everyone else is 2 floors up. So there's no one out. He goes, I'm just going to go bathroom before we go live. So I'm sat there, just making sure everything's working. And I go, hey, are you all right? I'm like, Chris? I couldn't see it, but you can hear when the door to his studio opens. And he come back. I'm like, I told him what had happened. He's like, get that all the time. He goes, please tell me you was recording. I'm like, oh. I told him what it said. He's like, oh my God. He goes, it has happened like quite a few times, but usually when he's been doing the podcast.
I do wonder whether Spirit pick up on the frequency that you're sending out, you know, on the podcast or wherever you're doing, and they find it easier to connect when the frequency's higher. You know, if you're obviously we're all energy, aren't we? And when we're on the phone's transmitting energy and power and all that. And I do wonder sometimes whether they find it easier to connect with that than you know, you can hear it clear audio because you can hear it clearly.
Yeah.
But whether they can use that energy that you're pushing out, because it's all the phones, everything, light bulbs, everything's pushing energy out, and they find it easier to connect. And also, a lot of times they speak is when you're talking, and it's not until you play it back you think, what was that? You know, many times on the Monday Night Live, we've had voices come through, and everybody's looking at each other. So who was that? You know, and you're thinking, well, hang on. And then you obviously after the live, you go back, and sure enough, it's there. And then somebody messages you and says, who was the woman talking in the background? And you can hear it. So I think Spirit enjoy manipulating the energy and coming in and just throwing a few teasers in there for you.
We have actually had that a couple of times. We've heard voices, but I've just never gone back to check it out because I'm too lazy, to be honest. Just don't have the time to do it. Don't have the time.
We often hear voices here because we live in a haunted bungalow. So, you know, we could come in from shopping and hear voices, hear the conversation in the lounge. And we think, oh, you know, my partner's daughter's turned up with the children, and we come in and there's nobody here. And we know we've heard a conversation going on. And I've woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning hearing 2 men talking. I'm thinking they must be outside. So I've gone outside, there's nobody there. But I know for a fact I heard this conversation. And obviously we had, you could see it on YouTube, it's where we caught a ghost manifesting in the house with a camera. And it was on caught on camera, the unexplained, or the unexplained caught on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's on that. It's the first time anybody's ever seen a spirit appear in a doorway, look around the corner, and then disappear into an orb and disappear into the room. If you look on the YouTube channel, it's on there.
Yeah.
And they came and took it off of us and used it, and they sent it to the police to check the metadata because they couldn't believe what was on the footage of the camera. So before it went on TV, they have to verify that it is what it is. It's a true footage. So he said, do you mind if we take it to the police? I said, no, it's fine. So they took it to this forensic lab, and they said they're going to pull out the metadata, which is the position of the camera, you know, all the information within that.
If there's any overlays and anything.
Any glitchy, anything in that picture. They came back and said the only thing they can find that they're just mind blown by is obviously the video. The first part of the video was recorded at 03:07 in the early hours of the morning, which was when the camera was switched on, when there was movement. The second part of the video, where the spirit appears in the doorway, is at 03:06. So it goes back.
Wow.
That's weird.
And they got that from the metadata. I never saw it, nor did a friend of mine who's an investigator on the TV. He looked at it and went, you ain't going to believe this, but the time stamp goes backwards. I said, no, I can't do. You know, it's a follow-on the camera. It just carries on. He said, no, it doesn't. And they showed me on the metadata, it actually 03:07 in the morning was when it was triggered. and the second recording, as it was still running, was 0306. How do you work that one out? How can it go back when it's recording forward? Absolutely. I'm like mind blown by it.
Have you done an investigation?
But they came down. We did spend a day filming here with the cameras and all of the bits, and they filmed here, and we seem to think that there may be a portal or something in our hallway, because we often hear different things and feel different things, leading up to that. And it was a hot day. I think we were sitting in the lounge. We heard something go bang in the kitchen. But, oh, well, here we go. And we went in the kitchen, and we have a lemonade bottle on the floor, but it was actually on the other side of the kitchen spinning round, like it was trying to tell us the windows were still open late at night. It was actually spinning. So anyway, we sort of thought, oh, well, that's very strange, but okay. So we went to bed. I think it was the same day or following day.
I can't remember, yeah.
Maybe the same day or a few days later. At 2:10 in the morning, we just crash, bang, smash.
That's me talking here.
And we thought someone had broken in. There's Nicole, we saw it there.
Oh, hi.
Do you remember?
Yeah, hi.
We thought somebody had broken in, so I got up.
Well, no, the pair of us woke up, sat bolt upright in bed. What the, was that? So we dived into the kitchen, and the clock had fallen off the wall, bounced on the cooker, and smashed onto the floor.
But the hanger was still in the wall.
Oh.
And it stopped at 2:10 in the morning. So we couldn't work that out. And then I bought a camera, thought I'd try a camera at night, because obviously some private investigations, we leave cameras there for a few days, a week or whatever.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd try this new camera out. So we put it on a mounted bookcase in the lounge, looking at the door. I thought, oh, that'll do. If anything moves, it'll catch it. And sure enough, I went to work, came back, thought, oh, it's flashing. So it's picked something up, thinking. So we had a lot of orbs in the picture like you do. And then suddenly you can hear, you've got to see it to believe it, because the camera switches on and then you hear.
Then you hear a lot of static.
And then the camera starts to shake. But we live out in the countryside, so there's no subways, there's no motorway, there's nothing near us. And the
solid bookcase.
And the camera starts to shake, and then it stops, and then zooms in to the door. But this time the door's opened more, and then you see this lady's head come around the door, goes back again, and then she dematerializes and comes in the room as an orb and disappears, and leaves a child spirit in the hallway.
Oh.
And that was just sheer luck. Just trying out a new camera.
You just reminded me of something. We got a lot of static when we did that one on Wednesday. When we hear that heavy breathing, loads and loads of static when we played it back. But there's nothing there. There's no.
But I believe that's energy.
Water, nothing.
I believe that's their energy building up. So it's creating a static charge within our atmosphere. It's creating that static charge as they're building up their energy, because you always seem to get a breath and then the static. So it's like they play
like the ions, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah,
it
exactly.
Reminds me of like that taser noise, like when the taser's firing up.
Absolutely. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what we heard. And we heard the breath, and I said to Jen, "You got to come and look at this," because I was going backwards and forwards, thinking, "I must be seeing things. It can't be." This is nobody's ever seen one appear, look round the corner, and then disappear. I'm saying to Jen, "It can't be, can it? Am I seeing things?" And literally, as we were slowing it down, you could hear the. And then the camera's rocking when the energy builds. And then the camera actually stops and then zooms in on the door, and there it is standing there.
Wow.
And we were just amazed at the amount of static, because we've had cameras in here before and had nothing. It's very quiet. You get lots of orbs
it's very quiet here.
coming backwards and forwards. But generally, as spirits go, it's very quiet. But we were just blown away. And of course, I showed my friend who's on the TV, and he went, there's no way that you could have caught that. So I said, well, take the camera, do what you got to do with it. And obviously he sent it to the friend, and they looked at it and said, well, it's gone back in time. So, and I didn't notice that, to be honest.
Wow.
So they're very clever spirit. Very clever.
Good capture, that.
Yeah.
Yes. If you have a look at it on the YouTube, you'll see it.
Another level.
Yeah. But again, that was just luck, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I wonder if they were manipulating the time on
was
the
it
camera, or if time actually, like, if they manipulate time in general when they were manifesting.
Well, you know, I often wonder when you see an apparition, does time stop? Do we actually stop? We're so fixated on what we're seeing, but does time that we're in stop? Do they come forward in time, or do we go back in time where we actually see them? I don't know.
Do you ever check your watch?
Yeah.
When it's actually happening.
And it stops.
So I need to do that.
Yeah,
I know where I'm going tomorrow.
Stop.
Tomorrow morning.
But don't concentrate on your watch. Just concentrate on what you're doing. And the time it starts to change is the time you look at your watch. Because all the time you're concentrating on your watch, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
It's that specific moment when you're not concentrating, you're chatting or you're doing something, and then suddenly you think, oh, this has changed. This has changed. And then look. And I've had it where the watch has actually stopped. Only for a few seconds, but it stopped.
Yeah. See, I'm now thinking, right? So, because technically time doesn't exist, it's just we use it as a measurement. So, if there is something coming through the veil, maybe someone just put in the chat, I think it is Brian, that it might just slow down. So, it's not, I don't believe it's time that's slowing down, it's the energy that we're in our realm that's slowing down to a stop so it can get through. Because if it's constantly moving, it's like trying to jump on a waltzers with it spinning round and round. You're gonna get flung off again. So it might need to slow it down so it can get on and then carry on. So that'd make sense for it to slow down to get on, slow it down enough to get through, and then carry back on. And
a lot of the spirit communication comes in faster than we can hear it, or faster than maybe we can see it. And that slowing down allows us to see the spirit moving
at that moment.
But you often wonder whether spirits see us as an energy, a haze, or do they see us how we are? I mean, I have a very interesting story about a friend of mine. This will blow your mind. I've known this guy for about 30 years, and he is an absolute genuine guy, you know. Never lie. He's just such a lovely bloke. Anyway, he said to me, a friend of mine's got a cottage up in Yorkshire on the moors in a place called Craven. Yeah. So, all right. He said, and he's very much a walker. So he loves walking the moors and all that type of stuff. So he said to me, can I just explain something to you and see what you think? He said, you think I'm going to be mad and totally mad, but I need to tell someone what's happened to me. I said, okay. Yeah. And this is about 8-9 months after the episode happened. So he set off from work, went to the bungalow, the cottage, put his stuff down there, sort of settled in, had a bit of a wander around the local, and then looked on the map. And down the road, about a mile and a half, was a village called Craven.
Yeah.
So he thought, oh, well, I'll go down there Saturday night and have a few beers and, you know, just wander. So he spent Saturday wandering around the moors, having a good time. Anyway, come home, shower, change. Thought, oh, I know, I'll go down into the village because there's bound to be a local pub and go and have a beer, a Yorkshire bitter. So he drove down, out the bungalow, down this country lane, came to a T-junction, turned left, and sure enough, opposite him was a baker's and a parade of shops, like quite old-fashioned village, but a parade of shops. So as he turned left, he saw there was a pub there. So he turned left again, parked up a bit of an incline onto the car park, walked down the car park and in the front door. So he's walked through the door, and the pub he remembered looking at the sign. It was called Craven in Heifer, like Heifer the cow.
Yeah.
The breed of cow. So he's walked in there, and as he's walked in, he's opened the door, and there's a guy standing right down the end behind the bar with his arms crossed, looking straight at him. So he's walked in and thought, oh, this is a bit of a strange place. Very dully lit, but not very bright. But he thought, oh, this is quite strange. This is really an old pub. You know, this is quite interesting. So he's gone up to the barman. The barman's not acknowledged him. Hello, good evening. Nothing like that. Just staring through him at the front door. So he said to the barman, hello, can I have a pint of your bitter? So he's poured him this pint out, put it on the counter.
Yeah.
So my friends give him a £5 note. He's opened a wooden till, put it in the till, and shut the drawer. He thought, well, that's a bit steep. £5. He didn't give me any change. Sort of, well, I won't say anything. Picked up his bitter, went and sat down. He said he was reading the paper, but he noticed inside the pub there was like horseshoe type chairs around. So the table in the middle, like the horseshoe type chairs, seating all the way around. So he's sitting there. He said nothing. It's very dully lit. It's very strange. So he thought, well, I'll go and put some music on. So he walked over to the jukebox, and the barman said, "Doesn't work." Oh, okay. And there's a fruit machine next to it. So he thinks, oh, I'll have a go. It doesn't work. So, okay, I'll go and have another beer then. So he picks up his glass, goes back, said, "Can I have a pint of that bitter?" So the barman pours it out, gives him another £5, opens the wooden till, shuts the till, and he goes and sits back down. Just as he turns around at this moment of point, he hears the door open at the pub. So he's like, "Go for that." More people coming in. And as he's walking back to his seat, he noticed there's about 20 people sitting on the seats with half-drunk drinks on the table. Yeah. And he's thinking, what? So he sat down and sort of looking over the top of his newspaper, thinking, how can that be? They haven't even been up the bar. The barman hasn't even moved. But they've got all these 20 people sat around his table with half-drunk drinks. And he's thinking, how can this be? So he's thinking, oh, this is far too creepy now because this can't be happening. And I said, what did you notice about it? He said that they were dressed in like 1930s type dress, like they'd come from the mine and the women were in their long frocks and all of that type of Yorkshire type dress. So he thought, well, I'll go for a wee and then I'll leave because this is far too creepy. So he goes up the stairs past the barman and the toilet's outside. So he's gone up the stairs, opened the back door, and the dog's like rah, 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 having a real go at him. He's thinking, oh, sorry, I'll go for a drink back at the cottage. So he comes back down the stairs, picks his newspaper. As he looks up, and he's literally feet from the door, the front door slams, bang. So he thinks, well, that's not very nice. Didn't even hold the door for me. So he opened the door, went out in the high street, nobody there, gone. He's thinking, what? So he got in his car, drove back to the cottage. All night he's thinking, what on earth has happened to me? So he'd gone back there the next day, thought, I've got to go back on the Sunday. I've got to go back. So same path. So he put in his sat nav, same way, got to the T-junction, turned left. Sure enough, there's the pub, the bakers, and all the parade of shops as he remembered it Saturday night. Parks in the car park, walks back down, goes to go to the pub, and it's all boarded up. He's like, what? He goes back to the car, looks at the car, and it's the same destination he had Saturday night. So right next to the pub is a like a service workshop for cars and that. Yeah. He hears bang and tapping going on. So he thinks, well, I'll go and ask in there because this can only be. So he asked the guy, the mechanic, he said, the Craven and Heifer. He said, oh, yeah, the pub. He said, oh, how long has it been shut? He said, why do you need to know that? He said, oh, I'm just a historian doing a local thing on the history. And he said, it's been shut about 80 years. So he's got back in the 80 years. So he's got back in the car, drove back to the cottage, picked his stuff up, drove home. For 8 or 9 months, this is going round in his head, round and round. How can this be? How can this be? This can't have happened. I must have dreamt this. So eventually he told his brother, and he explained the story to his brother, and his brother went, well, I'll go back there. He said, come with me. He said, no, there's no way that I'm going back. Something happened, and I don't know what, but I'm not going back. So back his brother went, found the Craven and Heifer, the pub, sort of parked up in the car park, had described the shops were all exactly the same. This was about probably a year now, getting on to a year later after he'd had this episode. Yeah. So as his brother walks in with his girlfriend, it's a lively pub, like a village pub. Music's going, everybody's happy, and so he gets a couple of drinks in there. Can I have this? Can I have that? Sits down, and it's quite lively. Music's going, people on dartboards, and he's thinking, what's he on about? So he picks up his change and goes, says his girlfriend, I think he's lost the plot. Comes back home, back to the cottage where it's exactly the same cottage where his brother stayed. Yeah. Got ready for bed, put the change onto the sideboard, and in this change was 2 1930 pennies.
Oh.
And then I studied parapsychology at university in Egham, at Royal Holloway. I did it as a mature student. And one of the talks there was a lady from NASA talking about time travel and how,
Right.
how they've been experimenting for many, many, many years on time travel, how they can get things through time. And I thought, shall I ask her what her take is on this? I'm thinking this is going to sound completely mad, isn't it? So I spoke to her. She said, yeah, tell me about it. So I told her, okay, she said, that's not an uncommon thing to happen to people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
right. She said, right, when he walked in, there must have been a time slip. So as he walked in, he'd gone back in time. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was sitting in the 1930s. Right. So, and she said, as he went to the toilet and the dog was barking, the dog was telling him the warning to get out before the time slip finished. Because he could have been trapped in the 1930s because there would have been no way back. She said, and this is quite a common thing that can happen to people, is where we cross over and you go back in time. And so I sort of thought, well, that's interesting. So I Googled Craven in Heifer, the pub. And in 1930, there was a mining disaster where the road collapsed and swallowed 20 people that were heading to the pub for the evening drink. So 20 people were lost in the landslip that were heading to the pub for the local village meeting type thing. And they were all killed. They were all buried alive. But that was in 1930.
Wow.
So.
And they were the 20 people, I presume, that was in the pub.
It can't be coincidence that it was 20 people, he said, and 20 people that were killed in the landslide. It can't be. There's no such thing as coincidence.
Do you think that's like an alternate timeline kind of thing? Like, well, this is what would have happened if that didn't happen?
And she thinks that at that specific time that he entered was that there was a time slip, and he'd actually gone back in time into the 1930s. Hence why it was a wooden till and a pan-pulled thing. And his brother getting the 1930s pennies is another indication of something would have travelled back there. And the dog was the warning to get out before it parted again. Because otherwise, you read about these people that are lost in time and nobody knows where they've gone. They just disappeared. Yeah. Is it that they're stuck in that?
If there was like a modern bill in that till in 1930s, like that he paid with, like if they're sitting there like wondering, like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
This is my question then.
Yeah.
He sat there and he's getting a drink and he sat down, there's all these other people and everything's going on. Would they've not looked at him to like, why is he dressed like that? Why is he so different? The hairstyle, the clothes.
He said they didn't acknowledge him. The barman didn't even acknowledge him other than pour the drink. Just looked straight through him at the door. He said normally you'd get eye contact or something going on or a nod, or he said he never even acknowledged me when I came in the door. He just looked straight through me. And he said when I was looking over the newspaper at these people, they were all just looking into nowhere, like they hadn't seen him.
And how long did this whole thing last?
5 minutes, 6 minutes at the most.
Wow.
Wasn't any longer than that. He said it's literally like instant. And he thought, how rude. They didn't even keep the door open for me. And of course, as he went out into the high street, there was nobody there. It was back to what he said was normal, what felt normal. But he never looked behind him to see if the pub was boarded up. He just got in the car and panicked and drove off because he just couldn't believe what he'd just seen. It's a really interesting story. And I rung up the local parish there and asked if I could speak to someone about this this collapse, and these 20 people. And I managed to get through to, I think it was a vicar or someone like that. And I was asking him about it. He said, why do you need to know? I said, I was just interested in the history. He said, you don't need to know anything about this village. Just stay away. And I thought, oh, that's quite intriguing.
I wonder if it's happened multiple times to where, he's getting inquiries about it and it's like, don't worry about it. It's just a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Just keeping it. Yeah.
But it's a village called Craven and the pub was called Craven in Heifer. But the village, I think, now has changed its name. It's got a different name, but it was known as Craven, and it's in Yorkshire.
So H-E-F-F-E-R.
Yeah.
And he's going to go look it up. Take a trip.
I'm going very soon.
That's Heifer in the cow, the breed of cow, because they come from the Yorkshire side, and that's what it's called, Craven in Heifer. So it's Craven in the cow, heifer. But recently it's changed names.
Have a walk about and see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
Make sure you
interesting.
dress time appropriately so they notice you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I often wonder, like, sometimes we go into these locations in the 14th, 15th, 16th century. But have you ever thought about how the English dialect would have changed over the years to now?
Yes.
How we pronounce things differently. So we're going in there. Is there any spirits here? Can you talk into this green light? Can you talk into this electronic machine? Do they really know what we're on about?
Well, that's Well, apparently,
Yeah.
I heard this on a podcast. I heard it a couple of different times that our UK English accent is how it used to be. Is more how the American accent is now.
Oh, okay, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So how Nicole's talking is how ours used to be, like however many hundreds of thousands. I don't know how long, but a while ago.
But if you look at the old dialect, it was ye old white.
Yeah,
It wouldn't have been what. Yeah, it would have been a very old English. So we're talking them into modern day English like we are now, and I imagine we talk very fast as English people anyway. We talk very fast, but would they have spoken slower and a different dialect? So they don't actually. When you go into 14th, 15th century place, well, ain't much going on here. But is it that they just don't understand what we're asking them to do? To talk into a green light, to talk into this recording machine with a red light. What's a red light? It's like the Americans, you say torch, but you call it, what do you call it in America? It's a lamp, flashlight. So exactly, you see how the difference is then? Because you could say, can you turn on the flashlight? And they're like, what flashlight? What are you on about? Can you turn on the torch?
Investigating, we call it a torch because that verbiage would be more familiar to somebody who doesn't know what a flashlight was. We try to use words that would resonate with someone from the time period.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's where we make the mistake. We expect them to talk to us in English or in our dialect, but they can't because they don't understand our dialect.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Is it not like a universal language that when we're trying to contact them, because we've spoke to guests before, that maybe there's some sort of international language. It doesn't matter what language we speak to them, they can understand what we're saying. Because there's a couple that Nicole know, they do a thing called Staticom, Ron and Lourdes, and they've had it where it's a program. They use white noise, but they get rid of the white noise.
Okay,
so and that's the only way I can explain it. But they've had it where they've had direct contact, and it said their names, but then it said it in Spanish or Portuguese or something?
No, I think it was Tony Rathman, the partner of the Rathmans, that was doing a session, like a live session, and it was in a different language, and he was like, I speak English, and they were like, oh, sorry.
And then they changed and started speaking to him in English.
But you could get into a building where they can only speak German, they can only speak Spanish, Italian, and it's trying to suss out your location, isn't it, and how you're getting communication. I mean, we do an abbey near where we are in Farnham, and it's a 14th century abbey, and it's the only one in existence that the monks would sleep on the first floor or not on the ground floor. So we went there one night to try, and it's very quiet, not much going on. So we decided to play monk chants in the music. And the activity ramped up instantly. Knocks, taps, cat balls going, voices, everything. Just because we changed the atmosphere around us and put something in that they understood. They obviously didn't know what we were trying to do, but as soon as we played the music, it literally changed. The cat balls were going off, the voice recorders were voicing, the cameras were moving around. It just completely changed because it was something they recognised.
Right, got you.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes you can, like, if you speak to them in their like native language, you get a good response. Sometimes Jenny in the chat, she speaks Dutch, and she's tried to do EVP sessions in Dutch and got some results that way, where we weren't getting anything in English.
I need her in the UK. The bench guy, he was Dutch.
This is what I mean. We were asking out in English, but we don't know whether the inhabitants there hundreds and hundreds of years ago were Dutch, whether they were German, were they Spanish, Italian. We're assuming that everybody in this country was English, but that's not how it works. The Vikings, the Saxons, and the Romans.
Yeah, if you go back to Europe, it was called Germania, like before the Romans took over. So obviously they weren't speaking English then.
No.
It was, I don't know what it was. I weren't there, but it wasn't English. I know that. Do you know what I mean?
So I mean, you're asking in English at some locations, you're not getting a response. Is it because you're not speaking the language that they understand? Sometimes we use an app on the phone and try and change what we're asking into Latin, or if you're in a monastery, it quite possibly would have spoke Latin, but we're asking them in English. But if you start asking in Latin, or someone that can sort of pronounce it as near as possible, you start to get that interaction, like you're saying in the Dutch. You start talking Dutch, you start to get that interaction, because we're asking it. We assume that the international language in spirit world is English.
Yeah,
we don't know that for sure, do we?
No.
But is it like a collective consciousness thing where they can speak to us in the way that we understand?
I think sometimes they speak to us in our heads.
Yeah,
we hear voices in our heads rather than we hear it audibly, like Claire audiently. We hear it in our heads because they know that they can talk to us in our heads rather than try and explain it in the outer realms. They put the suggestion or the voice in your head. You think, oh, right, yeah, okay. And you understand it. Maybe I think they're that clever. They can do that, and we tend to do what we call as human pendulum, where you have a circle and you have a human in the middle. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Yeah.
No, I have not.
And we've asked the spirit to come into the circle, choose someone around that circle they wish to communicate with, and you put that person in the middle with yourself or someone to stop them falling over, and then you ask the spirit to move them forward. Which way? Show us your which way for yes, spirit, and the person will move forward. Which way for no, and you'll see the person literally move back. But the person that's doing the human pendulum is so relaxed, they don't know what's going on. So it's not as though they're swaying. And then if you're going yes, no answers, you get more response on a yes, no answer than you would by trying to get them to explain something. Are you male? Yes. Are you female? Did you die here? No. Did you work here? Yes. And that starts to build your history picture up of who you're interacting with. Generally, myself and Jenny and a couple of others can pick up a name. You get a name in your head, and you'll say, "Is your name Mary?" And yes. And you were a servant here, weren't you? Yes. And the people around the outside of the circle can physically see that you're not doing it. So there's got to be something in it. And it's back to basics. We forget to go back to basics sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. But have you seen what you can get? So you can get earbuds now that translate in real time over 250 languages. So you connect to an app on your phone, set what language you want it as, and as someone's talking, it relays what they're being said. So bearing that in mind, if you used to use them on an investigation, they might not work if you don't get anything and you've got to listen to it back. But if you are getting a connection, you can physically hear someone. If it's going through the EVP, then she'll translate it. Doing it that well, not even using them during the investigation, but afterwards when you listen back.
Yeah, because it may be that you missed something, a word, a sign, something that you don't understand. You think, oh, I don't know what that was, and carry on. But there is something in the message, and we just don't realise what we're hearing, because obviously our hearing's completely different. Each person hears at a different frequency type of thing. Somebody would hear it. So, did you hear that? And say, no, I didn't hear that. But, and I'm a great avid believer in taking my EVP, my recorder everywhere I go. Yeah. And just out of the blue, you just take it out and just do a bit of a calling out. And 9 times out of 10, you get a very good response.
Yeah.
I'm a great believer in using that where I can.
Yeah. I need to do that. It's my digital recorder's in the drawer behind me. I just keep forgetting it's there. So when I go out, it's like, use my phone. Right, we've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So, and we've got about 15 minutes left.
Sure.
So I'll do the big question first. So this is from Nickname, and she's asked, can you talk about Waverley Abbey and what happened?
Well, we were at Waverley Abbey, and she obviously knows the area it is, and it's a 14th, 15th century abbey that's in ruins now. And it was the only abbey that, as I say, that the monks slept on the first floor and not on the ground floor, which nobody really can explain. But it's in the grounds of a house called Waverley House, and it's like a massive big house, a stately home, if you want for a word, but it's flats now with a big lake in front of it, and you walk around the lake, and it belongs to the English heritage, so you can go there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So you can go at any time you want, and we often go there as a free venue. We take new people that want to try it. You know, it's quite a place. We've been there before where there's, you know, we've wandered over there and silly people doing chants and, you know, really sort of things that you really don't want to be involved with, you know, and it's not for us to say you shouldn't be doing that because we don't own it.
Yeah.
So we've been over there a few times, and one night we were there 11, 12 o'clock at night, and it was obviously dark, but the night sky is so clear you can see things flying around in the sky, whether they're satellites or space junk. I don't know. It literally is, the sky is that clear there. There's no light pollution. Anyway, we just happened to hear a noise, and imagine the ruins are spread out over quite a massive field. So this abbey would have been huge, absolutely huge. And it's the only thing that's known to have a 900-year-old tree, and the tree is still there. And that they call it the hanging tree, where they would hang people from that didn't go along with the church or whatever. They would hang them from the tree. And if you stand by the tree, you can actually hear creaking some nights, whether it's the tree moving, because all the roots are literally out of the ground. It's a huge tree. Anyway, we were standing there, and we had the voice recorder and a few cameras going, so we're filming all around. You know, we've been there numerous times, so we know it very well, and we know the noises and the sounds that it makes. So during World War II, it was used for during World War One, it was used for housing soldiers from the war to convalesce. And in that house that was the mansion is where Florence Nightingale learnt her trade as a nurse.
Oh.
So she learnt her trade, although she was in London as a nurse, which she became that nurse in London, but she was known to be in the house, the Waverley House, where she learnt her trade, and she cared for the World War One victims that they took there to convalesce, because obviously there was a lot more of the abbey in existence then. Then World War II, the British were so paranoid that the Germans would come up the river, because there's a big river behind it. They put anti-tank traps behind the monument, behind the abbey, and in the river to try and protect it. They were so adamant that the Germans would come up the river and invade from that way that there's massive tank traps. And when they were laying them, a few soldiers were killed because they got crushed, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things happened. And you know, a few times we've sort of wandered around there. It's quite dark, and you get that sense where you think, I shouldn't be here, and like someone's pushing you out, like you're getting pushed away from it. So you know, you got to take that as a warning and move out. So I used first time I had it, I bought what they call the Alice ITC box. Have you seen them?
Alice box.
The Alice box, the ITC. So the first time I got one, I thought, I'm going to give it a try there. So we switched it on, and it's like searching, and it goes did, and it tells you a message coming, and it said Abbey, and I, okay, that's quite random, but we are in the Abbey. I thought I'll try it now. It's got no GPS, it's got nothing on it. It's just an ITC box. So I said, where are we in the Abbey? And it went cloisters. And when we looked round, we're actually standing in the cloisters.
Oh,
how it knew, we were just blown away by how it knew where we were in the Abbey. So a little while longer, we heard what we thought was a horse, like a gallop. We're thinking, what on earth is this? And as we looked across, it was quite misty sort of grass along, and we're looking to the half sort of built ruins. There was a soldier on a horse galloping across the field and disappeared. He never came out the other side of the ruin. And I thought, I looked, I didn't say anything. And you know, when you're stunned, you just think, did I just... I didn't say anything. I stood there, and a couple of the others behind me went, did you just see something there? And I went, oh, what did you see? Because I wouldn't let on what I saw, because sometimes the power of suggestion can sway somebody's judgment. So I said, oh, what did you see? There's a soldier on a horse. And this other girl went, because she was slightly further away on our right-hand side, she said, she come out walking over, said, did you just see someone on a horse? And three people being in different bloke, and it literally was like this horse galloping with his soldier on the back and disappeared behind half of the ruins and never came out the other side. And I even run over there to see if it was somebody on a horse. There was nothing. There was no marks on the ground. There's no footprints, nothing at all. The grass was still standing upright. It hadn't been flattened by any weight of anything travelling along. And we've had a few things like that happen where you suddenly see something and disappear. So Waverley Abbey, with the right team and the right circumstances, can really give you some real, very, very good evidence. You know, mind-blowing evidence. You walk away and think, oh my God. And just as you get to the car park, there's a World War I bunker. And it's still and got all the walls. And when you go in there, we take a table in here for table tipping. And the table doesn't stand on the floor. The table just flies around the room. Yeah. It literally is that powerful in that entrance. So if you're ever in that area, it's well worth going to go and have a one, especially you, Andy. If you're in that, you'll love being in there. Go there.
Yeah, if I go missing, you know,
well, we won't come looking because it means something's evil's there.
It's all right. They'll give me something to do for a bit, work out how to get back.
Yeah. But yeah, the answer to the question is Waverley Abbey is tremendous. The right circumstance, it's like any haunted location, the right atmosphere, the right time, and things do happen.
Yeah. So do you believe that anywhere can be haunted? It doesn't, because when I did one of my very first investigations, someone in the chat was like, why have you gone there? What's the history of it? I'm like, don't know, I just drawn to it. I just thought I'll go and check it out. And that was it.
It's like I say
everywhere.
It's like I said in the beginning, where you could, anybody can say this is haunted, but I want the building to prove to me it's haunted.
Yeah.
You could go to a railway line in London and say, oh, this is haunted, and it probably would be in London. The underground. Oh, yeah. Because the underground's very haunted in London. Believe it or not, people don't believe you. Think, no, it's not. Or you think the amount of energy that was there during the war.
Do you know what? A lot of people don't realise that when you go on the London Underground, it's not on one level. You've got like 7 or 8 different levels.
Correct, yeah.
You've got one line is, say, level 1, like, say, the Northern Line. Then you got the Piccadilly line, and is it the Circle, and I don't know. I just know where I need to go when I get there. Do you know what I mean? But you've got all different levels.
But you think of the escalator when you're coming down into the tunnel. How far are you actually coming down the escalators, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's so steep.
Exactly. So you're going down different levels. It's like the Aldwych. If you get to the end of the line of Aldwych, beyond the Aldwych is another station, a haunted station beyond the Aldwych.
That's one.
But you don't let anybody in there because they don't. Because there was something happened during the war in that Aldwych station that they actually cut the line off there. So the Aldwych station you see now is not the true Aldwych station. It's further on inside it just looks like a normal plain wall, but there's another haunted station beyond that.
Yeah, because I went to Liverpool Street a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Is it Aldergate?
Aldgate.
East and West.
Aldgate.
East and West.
Yeah.
So I was going, I could have got off at any of them 3 stations, but there was 2 escalators, and it was like that. It's like a slide, like a kid's slide. It was that steep.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, people don't realise these all different levels. It's not
just how deep you are.
One lane, one level, one tunnel.
But if you're staying quietly, you can actually hear the trains going under and over you.
Yeah.
When you're very quiet, and you think, oh, there's a train coming, but it's not, because there's one above you or one underneath you.
You're listening. It's like, because they're like every 6 minutes or something, aren't they, John?
Yeah. So it's quite an interesting. I'd love to get into the Aldwych haunted station and spend the night there. I mean, I think that'd be mind blowing, to be honest. If you think of the energy during the Second World War, a lot of people would hide there during the Blitz.
Yeah.
For the bombing, everybody would usher down into the underground to be safe. But a few times the bombs come down the stairs and exploded in the underground.
Yeah, because
a
lot of it used for like bunkers during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like going to the D-Day bunkers, up in Portsmouth. The D-Day bunkers, have you heard of them? And that's where Winston Churchill used to do a lot of his stuff from. Was the D-Day bunkers in Portsmouth. We the company that we go with, Paranation, does the ghost hunt events. They often hire that venue, and they're called the D-Day tunnel, the D-Day tunnels. And it literally was where he was on D-Day, was in the tunnels, and they literally are the tunnels under the ground. They're in a mountain, and they've got all these tunnels. You look it up, and you can go there. They have they're open all day, where you can wander around and have a look, and there's all the telecommunications and all. But he would have travelled between London and Portsmouth in the tunnels, but with a train. So he was never seen overground. He was always underground.
Yeah.
And that was the plan of any invasion.
Yeah, Windsor's the same, isn't it? From Windsor to London. Because obviously that's where the Queen was living. And a lot of the royals, head of state, have lived there as well.
Yeah. But people don't realise how many extra train lines there is to move them backwards and forwards, and around. They would move them backwards and forwards, but they would be underground, because a lot of it was for an invasion. If there was ever an invasion, they would have an escape route to get them out.
Oh, yeah.
So,
there's a lot of it run, obviously, like Buckingham Palace, Windsor and all that. It runs under and or into towards the Thames, as well as, I can't remember the name of the river. Is it Henley? Oh, no, it's the Thames, isn't it?
The Thames at Henley, runs under the Thames at Henley.
Yeah, Henley on Thames,
And if you try
there's another river around there. I can't think of the name of it.
What's around there? You got Thames.
Around Staines and Twickenham.
The Thames runs through the Staines, because Staines is a very old Roman town, or was a very old Roman town. Staines upon Thames, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's.
So I used to live around that area, because there's a very haunted hill there. I don't know if you've been to St Anne's Hill.
No, because you're not too far from there, are you? You're literally down the road.
We're in Warlingham in Surrey, which is near Gatwick.
Yeah.
Like where we are.
Gatwick, so you're the other side then, aren't you?
Yeah. But I used to live in a village just outside of there called Thorpe Village, where Thorpe Park is, the amusement.
Yes. Yeah.
And we had a place there called St Anne's Hill. It was very, very haunted.
Never heard of it. Sorry.
Yeah. If you ever up that way, there's a nice little pub in the corner, very haunted pub. A lot of film stars from Shepperton Studios go there because it's completely out of the way. And then there's a footpath that travels up. And during World War One, a lot of the soldiers used to train there. And there was a nunnery at the top of the hill. But all you've got now is the ruins. We were there one night and we saw someone coming up, what would have looked like, was walking up a path with what looked like a piece of pole carrying what we could only describe would be buckets. And when you look back at the history, the nuns used to travel down the hill to get the water and bring it back up the hill into the nunnery at the top. But now there's only ruins. So that's a really interesting place. If you're ever out that way, go to St Anne's Hill.
Yeah, I've just wrote it all down so I don't forget. Right. Massive thank you for coming up. We're actually at the 1 hour 30 mark.
Nice. Okay.
You know what? This must be the one that's gone the quickest out of every single one I've done. It's flown. Honestly, it really has. Yeah.
We have some interesting stories.
You can do part two.
Quick last question.
Yeah, of course.
Quickest answer you can give. So this is from Joe moderator. What does Paul think spirits are? So I didn't see that straight away. Energy. Yeah.
Spirits are energy. The same as us, we're energy, and that's what we are. When we die, we physically die. We know that because we can see us being cremated or buried. But spiritually, we carry on to teach, be taught, or start another lesson. But we're all energy. At the end of the day, we're energy, aren't we? All of us.
Yeah.
Same as buildings, same as everything we see, feel, and touch is all energy.
Yeah. Right. Massive thank you, Paul, for coming on.
Oh, you're very welcome.
My pleasure. Definitely
Nice
need
to see you,
come back
Nico.
on.
Yeah. Anytime, mate. Just you got my. You know where I am now. Just contact me.
Yeah.
Come back on. And we got some interesting. We got some interesting stories, and you know, Jenny with her spirit art, and
I was going to
all
say
of that going on.
Show of drawings.
Yeah.
Investigating.
You drawn one. She just drawn one quickly while we were on the air.
Oh, is
And
she?
she often, she often does that. Yeah, look.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh,
See it?
Ooh.
yeah.
That she'll just sit there and suddenly draw and say, "I've just got that."
That looks like a palladium. Like
Weird.
Nordic alien.
No idea. But this is often when we to go on a paranormal investigation. Obviously, I know you've got to go now.
Yeah.
But when Jenny goes there and sits in the complete darkness, can't see anything, and draws in the dark. And when you
Wow.
come, and when you see it in the light, you think, "Oh my word! How have you drawn that?"
This was in a theatre.
That was in a theatre,
I was drawing that in the dark.
and that was in the pitch black.
Wow. Yeah,
And she
mine
can't
would
see what she's drawing.
Yeah, mine would be a Picasso if I had to draw in the dark.
Might be more like a Banksy.
Not free choice.
Even if I have to draw in the light, it would be a stick figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be easy, isn't it? That one.
But I've only been drawing for about a year. Yeah.
See, that's amazing.
But
To be
you know,
able
when
to
you're
do that
channeling it, and as I do the picture very quickly, it's better. If you understand what I mean. Than if I was doing it slowly.
Here's a
or
quick.
copying something.
Here's a quick story for you. Jenny drew one, and then put it down and went back to it, and as she picked it up, it actually winked. The picture winked at her. Didn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
I went,
Oh, and dropped it.
I'd have
Like a
burnt
Harry
the
Potter
paper.
picture as they move.
So we could be the weirdos of Surrey.
I'd have put a stake through the paper and lit it.
I think the best one that I drew was at a pub, and there'd been quite a few murders there. And I drew this picture, and obviously you get back quite late. So it wasn't until the next evening we looked up about the area, and a woman had been strangled, and the picture of what I drew and the woman were dead ringers.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. And she
We're gonna
came
have
through
to
quite.
Paul and Jenny back on for a part 2.
Yeah,
definitely.
anytime. Just contact us anytime, mate. You know, we'd be happy to come back on.
Got a few empty slots coming up in October, so
send them over, and we're not doing anything.
We'll check the diary.
We'll check our diary because we're busy.
We do get busy.
We get busy now.
I do a lot of fairs,
spirit readings, and private readings, and all of that.
Mediumship and tarot.
Yeah, so send them over, mate, and by all means, we'll come on. We have lots of stories and lots of adventures we've been on.
Excellent. Thank you so
Paul's
much.
got loads of brilliant stories. They're all true.
Yeah.
All absolutely 100% true.
Anyway, we'll let you go.
Yeah. So massive thank you, both of you.
And thank you, mate.
Cole, finally getting the internet sorted out.
Yeah.
I know, it's working now.
Just go back and listen to the video, mate, with that noise.
No, I'm gonna,
see what's in it.
Yeah. Thank you to Blue Shift for joining the Patreon. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye from Poppy.
Spirit dog.
Yeah. Right. So nothing on Monday. On Wednesday the 11th, we've got Chris Cutler, who's a filmmaker. He's going to be coming on talking about the movies that he's got coming out. And then it's our 6-week special on Friday the 13th with Darl Nestor and Brandon Thomas. I think I've got his name right. I forgot his name then. Yeah, it's Thomas, isn't it? I was thinking Thompson. So, yeah, we've got that. The 24-hour live stream is looking good. We've only got, I think, 8 or 9 empty time slots now, so it is filling up. And I only know 6 of them are. But we kind of messed up because we realised that we go back, the clocks go back in the UK, but they don't in the US. So Nicole, we've got to contact everyone and push everyone an hour forward. So happy days.
All the
Right,
joy,
so-
all the joy.
I know. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for everyone who are listening on podcast. Thank you to everyone who's watching on the Unnext Network on Saturday night at 10 p.m. Really appreciate it. And that's it. So yeah, please do join the Patreon. There is stuff that I've been putting on there. You will see a lot of stuff when I'm a lot of videos of me editing things, so you can see what goes on in the background. That's only open to the tiers where you have to pay, so it's just giving something back. And there are 2 new tiers. One you get a mug, and the other one you get a hoodie, but you have to pay 3 months on each before you receive it. They are more expensive. They're not that expensive, but they're there if anyone's interested. And you can only get that hoodie and that mug through Patreon. It's not going to be like any of the merchandise that are going to be doing. So that's it. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Paul. Sorry, I'm rubbish with names.
Jenny.
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 And the little white dog. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
And you. Stay safe.
And see you all on Wednesday, same time, 8:30. Take care. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.